Welcome to Bungalows for Bachelors. We are going to level up. This is level 3. We are going into a two-story design, and frankly, this is a relatively tricky two-story design because there's all kinds of different plate heights up on the second floor. So let's get into it. We're going to go ahead, and the first thing we need to do is try to understand what the building is like that we are building here. So we've got this front porch living room that just kind of sticks out of the front. It's its own thing. This is a flat ceiling. This is a vaulted ceiling. This is a flat ceiling in here, but we're not super concerned with it structurally. That this is all just furred out wood, nothing crazy. So when we have a two-story, what we need to think about is we need to think about what this looks like sitting on top of this. That's the first thing we need to figure out. So the first thing is we ought to make sure that our dimensions make sense. So first of all, the entire width of this guy hopefully sits on the walls here, right? So 23 foot 10, 23 foot 10. All right, so that's good. That matches. Sometimes it doesn't. You would be surprised. Some people do not pay attention to this. Okay, so now we need to figure out what's going to line up here. So we're going to presume, yeah, looks like that. So right here where the ceiling goes up is this edge is this edge right here. So where this wall exists, it will sit right here on this. So, and then this little notch, just to check dimensions, is 3 foot 2.5 inches. This notch is also 3 foot 2.5 inches. So this front edge thing is going to line up and sit nicely on top of this. And then from there, it's going to go back 28 feet to the back of this wall. And we don't have a dimension for that here, but if we were to take a dimension from here to here, I'm going to do that real quick here. See if I can snap. We are in 1/4 inches 1 foot. It's telling me 28 feet on the money. That's why we have scaled drawings. All right, so 28 feet exactly is where this back wall happens. So I know that it's starting from this corner, running this way, comes over this guest bedroom, and stops here. So I could tell you right now, the first thing I know I'm going to need in here is a beam. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw this in here. I just know it's going to happen to have to be here. Something like that. Okay, so that beam is going to have to exist because I can't just set the wall on nothing, right? This exists. This wall is here and it holds weight. So I can't put it on nothing. I got to put it on a beam. So there's going to be a beam, hopefully that fits inside the floor system. Given that this is a gable wall and the roof weight isn't bearing down on it, and it's just a wall, it would probably okay. This is not a crazy span. So we're probably fine. We want to fit it inside the thickness of the floor system because, I mean, that just like, you don't want it sticking out. Doesn't look good. Okay. So the perimeter that I'm trying to imagine here is here, 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 here to here. All right, there's my second floor. So that works out. Now I've got this thing sticking out the back, and then I got a little water heater closet. Okay, so I'm just trying to understand my structure. Okay, right in the middle, I got a stairway, 2x6 walls. Now look over here on the second floor. I have a bedroom, and you'll notice that if I look at this dimension here, if I go from the front of this wall to the back of this stairway, it's 9 foot 5.5. Sorry, well, it's moved now. Let's say it's about 10 feet. All right. So if I go here, approximately where that is, and I go 10 feet, it puts me-ish right about there, yeah. So you see that? What I'm showing you is the very beginning of our stairway, the first step right here, happens below this wall, right? So we need to start thinking about headroom. Okay, we don't have a full clear height stairway. We have a head clearance here, head clearance thing here. So These are just structural things to think about. Because that's happening, again, I happen to know that I have a wall that exists here. Well, you can't hold up a wall with nothing. So I'm going to have to hold up the wall with the beam. Beam goes right there below the wall. All right. So let's see. Is there any other crazy obvious stuff going on here? Not really. All right. We really need to be worrying about the roof. That's the first thing. But I'm just talking about generally understanding the structure first. So let's keep going. Okay. So front view. Here's that front room right here. And then all of this is what makes the second floor roof shape. So this is that wall that projects out, and then it steps back into this wall. There are two gables. One's bigger than the other. And from the back side of the house, we got one big gable wall. Okay, so this is the half that's going to sit on the beam that's in the bedroom that I was talking about. And this is the half that just sits on a wall. This is going to start challenging your ability to visualize the framing in your head. That is something that will need to happen as you just kind of get better at seeing these things. So, and then on the back side of the house, that little piece of the room and the porch are covered by this little single shed roof that comes off the back. And that little closet's covered by it too, right there. These are called dormers. They are raised plate heights. So this wall is framed at a 7-foot plate height all the way through. This one is going to come up to a 9-foot plate height, but a lower pitch. And what it's going to do is it's going to give extra clearance, extra height in that room, likely for the window. So you raise the wall up here and you can fit a window in here and get a window in your room. Same thing is true on this side. 9-foot plate height, they raised this dormer up. And from the left side, well, oops, I got them backwards. That's the left side one. That's the right side one. If we go back to the floor plan, we can see where the roof shape does here. So this spot right here is where the dormer exists. And the ceiling is going to have this flat and then it's going to shift to sloped down to the wall. Except when it gets to right here, it's not going to do that anymore. It's going to be flat all the way to the wall because the wall is tall enough. This is a 9-foot ceiling, and that's a 9-foot plate. So that's flat ceiling in there. Okay, that's a 9-foot plate on that side too. Let's go look at the other side. It happens right in here. Okay, so we got the slanted ceiling going on from the wall up to here, and then it's flat. And that happens all the way to here, where these walls are going to support that dormer, and the shower will have a higher ceiling. So that's technically the ceiling line is going to do something like this. That's going to be slanted. That's going to be like that. Okay, so this whole area is all flat ceiling. Okay, that's what those dormers are for. So we're getting an idea what's going on with the structure here. It's kind of making sense. All right. What else do we got? Okay, so here's the roof plan. So the roof's doing the same thing all the way back to the first wall. And then what you see here is the first gable. This is the wall. There's the overhang on the edge of the roof. And then here's the second gable. There's the wall, and there's the overhang of the roof. And then here's the dormers, right here, right here. All right. And then on the back, we have the shed roof that just shoots off the back here. All right. And here's the detail of the stairway. So this is showing us, by the way, our headroom is good. We don't have a problem. But this is where that beam is going to need to be. It's going to look like this. When they put that beam in there, you're going to have a cross section right there, and the beam is going to define that edge, and the wall is going to sit on the beam. So that's how that works. All right, looks like we're pretty familiar with the design, and I don't care to see electrical plan. Okay. So one of the first things we got to do is take a look at our roof and see what kind of things we're going to do with our members. So the first thing is we need to think about what our rafters are doing on this whole roof. So in this section, they're all just going down like this on both sides all the way to the first wall. That's where they will stop. That's where wall framing happens. So the rafters are coming down doing that all the way past that point. Okay, so that's on the lower level, that's what's happening. And then above it, I'm going to now draw on the upper floor roof. We have, let's see. So that's the wall line. It's the first rafter. There's a wall line to the first rafter. We're going to have another rafter. It's kind of looking a little silly here. So we're going to have some outlookers, right, to make that overhang. Same thing here. We're going to have the outlookers to make this overhang. And there's going to be another rafter tucked underneath for this other guy all the way back to the wall. So it's pretty simple. Our rafters are basically just coming down and going all the way down. So for the gables, they're simple. Now let's talk about the dormers. Well, in the back here. Well, they're going to start at a ledger on the wall. They're going to come up like this. That's not very straight, but that's the idea. That's what the rafters are doing. And they're just going to be longer on those ones. Okay. What about our dormers? So the dormer situation is going to be a little interesting. Let's get rid of all this. So the dormer framing is going to be a mix of understanding how dormers are framed and also where precisely, like where the beams and things are going to go. So we kind of got to think about in this situation with the ceiling heights we have, how are we going to frame these dormers? It's not always the same thing. So what we need to do is let's think about these dormers first. Let's tackle these. Okay, so let's tackle this right one. So I have some rafters that are going to go like this for the dormer. And I'll have some tiny little outlookers that create the little 6-inch overhang, something like that. Okay, so that'll create the main shape. And on this side, they're held up by the wall framing, so that's easy. That's sitting on a wall. But what's holding it up on this side? That is what we don't know. So let's kind of go back and look at our walls and see what we can think about here. What can we make hold this up? So that's all happening right above this area. Okay. So I know the rafters on the wall end are sitting right here on that wall, but I don't have anything here to hold up the other end of the rafters. Well, maybe I should put something there. Now, I happen to know, that this is flat ceiling through here. And I like flat ceiling because flat ceiling means that I can hide beams and I can put beams in. And I like beams. Beams do good things, okay? So, what I think I'm going to do is what I need to do is I need to support rafters that are landing, let's say here, here, and here. So I need to support this end, and this end of those rafters. Well, there are multiple ways I could accomplish that, but one of the simpler ways in terms of framing things plainly and not doing any tricks is I put a beam underneath the thing I need to hold up. So what am I going to do? I'm going to grab my beam and I'm going to put a beam from here to here. Now the problem is I can't just put a beam in floating space. Beams have to sit on walls. So if I were to be silly, I could say, well, I don't have a wall here, so I go back until I have a wall, and I go forward until I have a wall, and I draw a beam that looks like this. And that'd be kind of silly. That wouldn't work. So what do we do? Well, we can add more beams to add a better supporting mechanism for our walls so that we don't have a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a beam from here to here, and then I'm going to add one from here to here. And now what have I done? I've created a shorter span, and I can now put a beam from here to here between these two beams and simply use a beam hanger, which I'll use a special color for. I'll use a beam hanger, or if I have enough clearance, I will just set it on top of the other ones. If I have clearance, I always wanted to set it on top because that means I don't have to buy a hanger. But it's probably going to be fairly shallow in here because that's only a 312 pitch. So we're going to assume hangers. Okay, so now that's how I'm going to hold up the other end of the, oops, wrong way. That's how I'm going to hold up this end of those rafters, okay? So that's done, that's supported. And I can also put the, oh man, this is gonna be a tricky one. I can also put the like other rafters and all the other frame I can use to brace on those things. That takes care of that dormer. What about this one? So we have the same principle, but let's see what we got going on here on the floor plan sheet. So that one's happening right here. Okay, so one side of the dormer is on this wall. So I don't have to do anything there. That's all just gonna be stacked up on the wall, no problems. What about this side? Well, this is all flat ceiling again, so I think I'm just gonna do the simple way again. I'm just gonna install a beam from here to here, and it's gonna define that edge like that. And then probably I'll end up tucking my attic access door right up into that beam, and that's how that'll work out. Okay, so that creates the support for this end, but it doesn't create the support for this end of the rafters, so I'm going to need another beam here. And I don't know exactly where, but I can grab a measurement and find out. See, I need to go this way. Okay, so I need to know approximately how far from the outside of my framing to this is my line. This is still a 1/4 to 1. 3'6" 6.5". We'll just call it 3'6". Okay. So I know that from the outside of my framing in 3'6" is where that line happens, and I want to put a beam underneath that. So I'm going to center on that, do this, make it straighter. And then again, I'm going to add another hanger. Okay. So that's how I'm going to catch and frame out that dormer. It's all going to be, all that special framing is going to happen above in the attic space. So I can just stick beams in there. Okay. So that takes care of the dormers. Now what I need to do is I need to get the roof lines on the floor plan here so I can really see where my braces are and what I'm working with. So to do that, I'm going to go to my roof plan, and I'm only going to look at this part right here because this is the roof that's on top of the second floor. I'm not going to worry about this part later. I'll do that on the other one. Okay, so I'm only looking at this guy. So what do I have? I have two ridges. I have this ridge, which is centered in this room because these were equal wall heights. And look at that, it's right in the middle. And this ridge, which is not centered in this roof because these wall heights were not the same. The roof is the same pitch, both 10-12, but they are not starting from the same place. See this? This one starts from a 7-foot plate height, goes up and up and up. And over here is a 5-foot plate height on top of that second floor. So the whole second floor is going to be flat, right? One level. But this roof is going to start from a 5-foot height, and that one's from a taller height. So that means this ridge is now no longer centered in that space. So I need to account for that and figure out where that ridge is going to be. In order to do that, probably just going to grab a dimension and do that. Okay, so from my outside of framing on the left side to my roof ridge, 10 foot 8 3/4. I'll try to get close to that. So I'll go back to here and take a dimension from the outside of framing. It was 10 foot 8 3/4. All right, right there. So exactly 10 foot 8 3/4, right there. So that is my ridge line, and I want the whole ridge line, so I'm actually going to do this, and it's going to give me a line to kind of draw on. All right, so now I'm going to draw my ridge line. I'll go ahead and just make it blue. 1.5. And then I will draw that. So it's gonna, I care about the line starting at the wall because the overhang doesn't matter. Not for this. I'm trying to find where to brace. And I'm going to stop in line with this front wall because that's where my roof stopped and the second roof shape took place. So I'm gonna stop about there. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of my dimension here. So that's about where my ridge is. And then I have a little ridge that's in the center here. I'm just gonna eyeball center. And that ought to be good enough. Go to 1.5. So from about right here, about center, just my eyeballing skills, it's good enough. Okay, so that's another ridge. So, well, the next thing I can tell you is that I have 2 ridges terminating over a bedroom, and there's nothing here. Oh man, this is going to be, oh man. I'm thinking right now. This ceiling thing is going to complicate things considerably because once this happens, I can't run beams this direction. I cannot do that. And that's because, oh wait, never mind. This is not as complicated. Okay, no, I got a beam here. I can't do this because this beam is the bottom of the beam is at the 9-foot mark in the ceiling. And once the ceiling drops down, I no longer have a wall to put this on. So it's like it gets cut off. So I can't reach the wall. So it's problematic. But in this case, it's not problematic because I've got this guy I can reach and align with. So what I'm going to do is I know I need to support this ridge. It's supported on the wall here, and this is, roughly 4 feet-ish or so to here. So I only need one support. I don't need to put braces in here. I need to support this somewhere such that I'm holding it up. Okay? And I've got, how much height do I have? Oops. Well, luckily I've got some steep roof pitches. Steep roof pitches help things. Okay, so I'm dealing with a 7-foot plate height right here and right here. And my peak is up here. And my flat ceiling happens up here. Let me think about that real quick. Make sure I'm not crazy. Ooh. Okay, let me go back. This is part of the process. I'm designing this on the spot for you. I don't have any advantages here. Okay. Nine-foot ceiling. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, that's right. So there's the other. Okay. Okay. So technically, what is happening here? So that is the 7-foot plate height. That's a 9-foot. Okay, because I got room above this one. Okay. Okay. Just trying to visualize things. Hopefully I can explain it to you. So I need to support this, and I have ample attic space at these points. These are showing me theoretically the widths. Yes, those lines don't lie. Those came straight out of the model. Okay. So what I'm going to draw here is I'm going to draw what's happening inside the room. Okay. So what I did is I have this 9-foot ceiling mark. Oops. That's right here, horizontal. Okay, so that's the 9-foot ceiling. What this is telling me is that inside the room, I'm going to have this portion of the ceiling is going to be the sloped part that you see. And there's going to be another one of those over here. Where's the wall? Where's the wall? There's so many lines in here. Somewhere over here. Okay, there's going to be another one over here. That's also blue. So that's what the ceiling is going to do in the first few feet of the room. And then it's flat in the middle. So what I'm describing is I have all this space in here to put beams I can put beams in this area. Excuse me again. Okay, so I'm going to remove these and go back. Hopefully that makes sense to what I'm trying to figure out here. So this is definitely a more complicated house. Okay, so I'm describing this first few feet of this room right here. I'm not talking about back here. I'm talking about right here. So I know I need a beam. I need something underneath this. So what I'd like to do is I want to do a few things when I'm placing beams. I want to minimize spans. I want to minimize the number of beams I'm putting in because the more beams I have, the more beams I have to buy, the more beams I have to install, and the more beams I have to calculate. That takes time. So I would rather take a beam from this wall to this wall and then take a roof brace from here to here, then put this beam directly below this, and then need a hanger right here. Because now I have a beam sitting on another beam. So now this beam is going to need to be bigger. The more weights you can get in the walls, the happier and the better everybody is going to be. All right. So that's what we gotta worry about. That gotta think about that. There's consequences to where you put these things. So I'd rather put it there because also now I'm nice and close to my other dude, and I can take care of it. So let's see. So the other thing to think about is between these ridges. Oh, I'm gonna have to do this anyway. Well, nope, no, I'm not. I'm gonna use the cool. I'm gonna use the cool special trick. Okay, so the way this is gonna get framed is I'm going to have a roof brace up here holding weight, but I'm also going to have a rafter. The last rafter, and I'm gonna double it up. I'm gonna take two. Is gonna come. Oh, come on. That rafter is gonna be at the ridge, run down to this wall, perfectly in line with this wall. There's gonna be two of them. Okay. And then there's going to be tiny little studs. I will show you on the elevation so that I can just draw it while we're talking here. There's going to be tiny little studs that need to make this wall, right? I need to put siding on this wall. So I need there to exist studs for me to put siding on. Now I don't need the studs to go all the way down to something else here. I only need them to exist above the space here. So what I'm going to do is those studs are going to sit on the rafter that I've put here, the doubled up rafter. I'm basically creating a beam, a slanted beam is what I'm doing. All right. And I happen to know if I double or triple it, that's plenty for holding these little dinky little studs. Nothing crazy is going on here. All right. So that's what I'm going to do there. And that's okay because I'm going to have a good stout brace. Let's see, my ceiling was about here. I put that beam about here. I'm going to have a brace of some kind holding up this ridge right here. Okay, it's going to go right here. It's going to sit on the beam. So I got to calculate all that weight and everything, but I mean, it's all good. I got all this stuff in here. So I'm going to leave that there. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. That's the trick that I'm doing right here. I'm going to leave these marks. Okay, so that takes care of the wall. And in fact, well, what I could do to help that out is I could also, yeah, so I'm only going to do that right here in the short piece because I can easily put a beam here. Whenever you can just use a beam, just use a beam. Okay, so I'm going to put a beam here. These black lines are not going to be there. I'm going to have that little stud thing going on right here, but that's it. And then I'm going to use another hanger. Remember, the more beams and hangers you use, the more calculation and stuff you got to do. But it's a good solution. So I'm going to put that weight on the beam, nice and sturdy. Beam's going to put it on this beam, and it's going to get to the walls. Nothing crazy going on here. So I'm going to keep track of all that. All right. So my roof is held up on the front here. I'm happy with this. My rafters are not spanning very far. They're probably 2x6s. Probably nothing crazy there. Let's actually figure that out real quick. So we could probably use 2x6s here. But let me tell you a determining factor, actually. I'm not concerned here because this building that's an 8-foot span. So 2x6s are fine in there. They're probably gonna end up using more because they're gonna want more insulation or something, but that's structurally fine. Okay, up here. Here's something that's happening. I have a rafter going from the ridge down to the wall. The problem is that I also have a ceiling joist landing on my rafter and going across and making the ceiling and sitting on the wall. That's where the ceiling joist is. Okay, so here's the rafter, and there's the ceiling joist. Now, why is that happening? That's happening because the rafter is making the ceiling in this area. And I will show you. Oops. Yeah, right here. Okay. So what's happening is I have this 9-foot ceiling. I'll make this a little wider. Okay, so I have a rafter that's making my roof, sitting down to sitting on the wall. There's my rafter board. Okay. My ceiling, forget this dormer's here. That's where we're framing. This dormer is not there. So it's gone. Imagine it's gone. It's bye-bye. I have a ceiling joist that needs to be at a 9-foot height, and I've got walls in here everywhere, so it's going to be on a wall over here somewhere. And that ceiling joist is supported on the right by a wall, and the left, what's it going to be supported on? Well, I can't get all the way out to the wall because I'd stick out of the roof. I can't do that because this dormer's not here. Remember, the wall to be supporting is down here. So I will stop at the rafter, and I will nail to my rafter. I'm going to hang on that rafter. I'm going to put my ceiling weight on the rafter at every ceiling joist, okay? Now when I do that, that adds more weight to the rafter. It's not designed for that by the normal span tables. So how do I deal with that? Well, there's tables for that. So I am going to pause here and get back into this in the next video.